Community, work life, home life, pop culture, access, the Black Bay experience.
What's up, Bay Area? You know what it is. It's your girl, Cami. Welcome to the Black Bay Experience, where we highlight all things regarding the Black existence, Black experience, and Black empowerment in the Bay Area. We need a platform to come together. So let's get right into it. Portia Williams has confirmed that she will be returning to The Real Housewives of Atlanta after stepping away for several seasons. It's official. Portia will be returning to The Real Housewives of Atlanta for the upcoming season 16. Now, on the other hand, your girl Nene Leakes isn't in any talks about joining the upcoming season. And in fact, producers haven't even reached out to her regarding a conversation about the possibility. So bringing Nene back isn't in the deck of cards. Now, Real Housewives of Atlanta fans, such as myself, have been campaigning on social media for her return to the show since 2020. Oh, Andy is in his feelings. Now back to Nene and Portia. Nene just posted on IG a story detailing how Portia got fired and replaced by Cynthia Bailey on The Upshaws, a Netflix show, because she went to production behind Nene's back and told them she didn't want to work with Nene because they had prior issues. Apparently, they were supposed to tape an episode of The Upshaws together, and Nene was really excited. But Portia went behind her back and told the production company that she didn't want to work with Nene because they had issues from the past. Nene said she was very disappointed to hear about Portia's feedback because they've been double dating and taking couples trips together. And she's even invited her to her and Simon's home. She said when she texted Portia and asked her what C, Portia said that she was upset because Nene, aka Big Sis, she hadn't checked up on her since she filed for divorce. Now, Nene ended her little rant by saying, Portia is not a celebrity, she's just a Bravo celebrity. Portia, Portia, Portia. Now, I love you, girl. And in fact, during my extension days, you could catch me rocking some Go Naked hair. But we're gonna have to keep it a buck because you really haven't been rocking with Nene like that. So why are you passively aggressively taking your madness towards Simon out on Nene? Now we all know Portia don't want no smoke with Nene. When it comes to Nene, aka Big Sis, Portia can't do nothing with that mouth on her. We see you on Zeus, Nene. Ew. So, ladies, let's learn what it really means to be grown. If we can play together with our means, we can get money together without them. We'll be right back with Black Arts Activism. The Black arts movement emerged during the Civil Rights and Black Power era in the 1960s and 1970s as a significant cultural and artistic movement within the African American community. It developed largely in reaction to the systemic racism and state of violence faced by Black people in the United States. For Black people, long disenfranchised and deliberately locked out of established political processes, Let's not forget that Black Americans were only fully able to vote in 1965 after the passage of the Voting Rights Act. Activism has never solely been the hard power you might typically think when you hear of that word. Protests, marches, sit ins, and other forms of direct political actions are not to be underestimated. They have resulted in tangible changes, which have greatly advanced civil rights and American democracy. However, I would argue that Black art has just an impactful and important role in driving social change as taking to the streets does. There has been a long tradition of Black artist activists using creativity as a catalyst to demand change, challenge stereotypes, and reimagine Blackness, while simultaneously empowering and inspiring people not to give up in the face of oppression. Black art and activism have been intertwined for centuries, wielding creativity as a powerful tool for resistance, empowerment, and self definition. From the vibrant murals of the Harlem Renaissance to the stirring photography of the Black Lives Matter movement, Black artists have consistently used their artistry to challenge oppressive narratives, celebrate cultural identity, and ignite calls for social change. This rich history serves as a testament to the enduring power of the art to move hearts, minds, and ultimately society. The roots of Black art as activism really run deep, predating even the establishment of the United States. Enslaved Africans brought their artistic traditions across the Atlantic, weaving resistance symbols into quilts, carving messages of hope into gourds, and singing spirituals brimming with coded lyrics. These early expressions served as cultural touchstones, keeping communities connected to their heritage and providing veiled avenues for challenging their subjugation. Following the Great Migration, the 1920s saw Black art and culture flourishing in Harlem, New York. The Harlem Renaissance birthed a generation of artists determined to rewrite the dominant narrative surrounding Black identity. Figures like Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and Aaron Douglas imbued their writing, painting, and sculpture with depictions of Black joy, beauty, and resilience. This artistic flourish countered racist stereotypes and celebrated the richness of Black cultural heritage. Henry Osawa Tanner was the first successful Black artist. He triumphed in a world that was predominantly white to create paintings of power, beauty, and poignance. Tanner's mother was a Black slave who had dramatically escaped via a railroad. His father was a Methodist minister and an abolitionist. Nina Simone, Nikki Giovanni, Elizabeth Catlett, and Ntozake Shange were prominent artists during the Black arts movement of the 1960s to the 1980s. These four women also were activists during the revolutionary years of the Black freedom struggles. Artists sought to create works that reflected the lived experiences of Black people, their struggles, triumphs, and aspirations. They wanted to reclaim their cultural heritage and express it in ways that was free from white artistic conventions and standards. Visual artist Malik Seneferu was born in 1971 in San Francisco, California. He is the recipient of the 2024 Creative Corps Grant and currently serves as the artist in residence at the San Francisco Hunters Point Shipyard. With a lifelong dedication to painting, education, and public art, Seneferu has been known his interactive murals and sculpture projects across Northern California. Over the past few years, the artist has introduced his innovative art magnets, which have become a popular choice among beginning level collectors. Malik Seneferu is a self taught and extremely prolific African American artist that has created more than 1,000 pieces of artwork, including paintings, murals, and mixed media projects over the past 40 years. Despite the fact that he has no formal college training, Malik's art has hung in many different professional arenas throughout the world, such as galleries, museums, magazines, and newspapers. While growing up in the 1970s and 80s, Malik saw all his peers going to jail and getting killed. Living a life of crime did not appeal to him, so he chose to follow his dream and began creating art. His interest in art became a pursuit for spiritual, mental, and physical elevation. In addition to creating original art pieces, Malik's works with communities has impacted future generations to come. Please join the Black Bay Experience as we sit down with Brother Malik, a hardworking Black man dedicated to Black artistic activism, as he shares his talent with the world. What's up, Brother Malik? Thank you so much for sharing your world with the Black Bay Experience.
Hey, peace, power, and creative prosperity. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Tell us about your childhood growing up in Bayview Hunters Point.
I was born and raised in San Francisco, California, 1971, April 7th, born at 6:04 a.m., I believe, a.m. at 150 West Point. My mother was 23 years old. My father was 24. My mother, Lenora Loggins, is well known as Zelma Matthews. And my father is Herman Jerome Smith Sr., who I was named after. Those two are the reason why I'm here, along with a place called Diego Mary's. Diego Mary's is right on the Hunters Point shipyard. And my mother used to go down there party looking for sailors. My dad was one of them sailors. And they got together, and I came out of that party experience. So what's up? I was born with asthma, very deep chronic asthma. My early stages, I had my first and last asthma attack, which was very a terminal circumstance where I ended up. My mom said I died, and they said that they couldn't find a heartbeat or anything like that. She was just crushed. And then they came back and my heart was beating again and stuff like that. So I died from my first asthma attack, being born in Hunters Point. My mother, avid smoker, and the environment didn't make it any better.
Now, what inspires you to make art?
Wow, having asthma, I always loved, I was very active when I was young. I loved to fight. I love boxing and stuff like that. I also enjoyed playing, baseball, basketball. I love playing football with my friends and stuff like that. But I didn't stay in neighborhoods long enough to really develop a relationship with those things. So even though I would get on, I used to play, I played basketball with Ella Hill Hutch when I lived in Fillmore. I lived all over the city. I went to probably about 8 elementary schools. I went to probably 8 to 12 elementary schools. I went to 2 junior high schools and 1 high school. So in growing up, that whole time, the only thing I had was a pen that I can find, or a crayon, or a pencil, a piece of paper, and I would make my own environment. Since it changed so much, my environment was with me. So I learned that home wasn't a place, but it was an experience. So wherever I was, I would always be able to find a pen. And I had elders who knew I was into art because I did a piece for my mother when I was about 4 years old. Brought it back home, and she was like, "Oh, you're gonna be an artist when you grow up," And then sometime down the line, I see my mother doodling on a matchbook because she was an avid smoker, pack of cools, and I was always running to the store for her on that stuff. But until I told her I wasn't going to do it anymore. That's another conversation. But she was doodling and it was beautiful. And I was like, oh, you can do that too. Like, no, only you, that's for you. That's for you to do. So I would do that. And then as I got older, I began meeting elders around the city who were really in the closet artists, but they were afraid to come out because there was no money in it. They couldn't, pay rent with it, So I really, a huge part of my life wanted to prove that to be wrong because it was so much healing that I witnessed in a lot of my elders who were a lot of my friends. So I could be 7 years old. I had friends, close friends that were 70 years old, right? So I would come and clean their house up for them. I would iron their clothes. I would get their bags because I used to work at Foodland as a little kid and help elders with their bags. So I was always about that, and being an older brother in the house and being the only child at the same time was an interesting experience for me. So I would always find my way to try to help my mother. So I would make extra money and bring a chicken and some bread home so we can be able to eat for the week, because there was times all we had was farina, maybe some government cheese, the government food that we was getting. And it was hard. We was eating lettuce with mayonnaise. If we can get some mayonnaise, scrape it from the bottom of the bottle, or if there was some peanut butter, we eat the peanut butter out the can. You know what I mean? That was the life that I grew up, experiencing. So at 7, I had to go out to figure out how can I get it and make it back home safe so my mother's not worried. That was the only real close relationship I had aside from my grandmother, who I would see her every now and then because she didn't live with us. So it was an interesting experience growing up in San Francisco. But, a lot of it I had to hold my own as a child out there, from fighting dudes trying to, take money from me because I was a kid walking. So I never forget fighting a grown man. Fighting a grown man. I backed him up, but it was like fighting a grown man. I never thought I would have to do that, trying to take something from me when I, trying to take my bag of food, trying to get upstairs to my mother, that type of thing. So, I've had those experiences. And then by the time I turned 13, I'm a man child. I've witnessed life in many ways in terms of, watching somebody get stabbed or watching my stepfather, handle somebody on the street, unlike I would ever see anybody do that. Those experiences is what helped to really build me and make me what people call me today as Brother Malik.
Now, what is unique about Black art?
Well, it's the experience in America. When we talk about Black art, we're talking about the Cobra movement, which was this wall of respect that was built. And they would have these colors, they called them the Kool-Aid colors. And, if you know the Kool-Aid packages, right? They had all these colors busting out, and of course, the stuff coming out of it was something you wanted to drink, even though you shouldn't drink it. But it was, those Kool-Aid colors was really attractive. It attracted me to the package. I used to try to draw them when I was a kid, and I would use the color schemes when I was a kid. And I didn't realize I was doing something that elders before me had already done, which was take that sort of Kool-Aid, the really punchy colors that you see around me, and bring them to the canvas. Later in my life, I would do that. But my beginning stages was just really the idea of Black art. It's really about Black expression, right? And this unapologetic expression of Black people in America, meaning African descendants or indigenous descendants here in the Americas, the experience that we only know here in America that we've experienced. And I've had my time of travel to Africa, and I had an amazing time there. I had my time of travel to Haiti. I had an amazing time there. But the experience here is really deep. It is literally the belly of the beast when it comes to fighting against white supremacy and fighting against just being, some level of economic equity. I didn't experience a lot of that growing up. And I always try to figure out ways to be creative. So in this idea of Black art, it's really about futurism. So when we talk about Black art, we're talking about Black futurism because it's really us not desiring the now. I mean, we desire our lives now, but we don't like what's happening now for us. So as artists, we try to create a beautiful moment that might help us to defy gravity in the moment. So that is really what black art is. It's the effort to defy gravity. It's the effort to provide a vision into the future.
Why is art important to Black people?
Well, it is the first reason why we dream, right? It is the reason why children wake up and want to go and have a day. To create your day, you have to, number one, have a vision. So it is actually the highest level of intelligence. A lot of people don't realize. They think about kids playing, and that's cool. We want to think about that. When you think of kids playing, your mind's rest, your energy, your guard is down. That's a good thing. But when we're really creating artifacts, right? When we're creating art, this idea of having that in your environment, there's so many of us that have these houses, and you go inside and you got stuff from big franchise companies that sell it out of their stores, whether if it's Ross or Marshalls or Target. They have a piece of art in the back with a black lady looking beautiful or something like that, and they buy it from that versus actually getting an artifact from the artists themselves and making that connection to the culture. Because as a people, if we tap into the art, we are tapped into our culture. It is the impetus of our culture. It is the proof that our culture actually exists, the way that it exists, in the time that it existed, and what exactly existed. Now, a lot of times in art, I may do abstract expression, but that expression is saying still there were Black people thinking, creating, and building beautiful things, and also mindfully thinking about the environment they're in. So it's those kinds of things. And I always come at it from a different angle because I want people to ask questions about the work. I am a portrait artist. I am a portrait artist in the sense that Europeans would consider a portrait artist, right? Meaning that you could sit down here and I could paint a picture of you. That would be considered a portrait. I have changed sort of how I view what portraits are for me and what I am working to do when I do a portrait. What I do is I create resurrections. So if you see me do a portrait, the idea is I want you to feel the person rather than know who I painted. And of course I can do the likeness. I can get that likeness, but the most important is for you to feel that person, to get that vibration. So you got to know a little bit of science around color. You got to know a little bit of science around placement and feng shui of how you can cause the mind to raise up just by looking at it. So it's creating that joy. And the most positive thing that one could do on this planet is smile or laugh. So if I can put a smile on your face, or if I can make you feel that joy, I think a lot of people get jolted when they feel this joy and they're like, oh, it made me smile. I don't know if I'm going to come back and talk to you about it, that kind of thing. And it's okay to be happy, but we've been taught that we shouldn't be too happy. So, and of course, the time that we're living in is hard to be. When you look at it, I would say your perspective guides your perception, which leads to your predicament. Depending upon your worldview and your active eye on that worldview, you can create the moment, which is the predicament. It could be neither negative nor positive. You just have to give it its judgment. So with that being said, I always say that, art is that opportunity for us to open our hearts, open our minds, allow ourselves to be led to a different space so that we can pull ourselves out of this condition. We are often believed that we're supposed to stay in it, right? But you're only to stay in it to change it, not for it to be the same. So the concept of when I'm creating art, or when I teach folks about creating their pieces, it's about understanding rhythm, balance, emphasis, variety, harmony, unity, and most importantly, originality. How can you say what you say from your own voice? What is your voice And what is the importance of your voice when it comes to that? So that's what I would say in terms of when people are looking at art and especially purchasing art. Especially I love folks who grew up around my art and they come back and they're buying work from me because they know me. Number one, not only that they know me, but they enjoy the work. I create this for my ancestors, thus for them, because they are a mirror of my ancestors. So I don't do business. I only create reciprocity.
What are your thoughts as to why the accomplishments of African American artists, past and present, may be unknown or undermarketed?
The first thing about unknown is because we have been taught to focus in a different direction. We have not really been vetted in to really focus on looking at art. We think about art, we might think about names I'm not going to mention because all it's going to do is introduce those names. But when we talk about art, we don't see someone Black in our mind. Some might say different. I know some folk, but when we talk about art in the world, we don't think of ourselves. We don't even think of ourselves in the world unless we're thinking about music, right? We think about entertainment, right? We're thinking about, the TV, right? Things that show us on TV is the things that we honor. We honor what we see on TV. And so I think, as things are beginning to change now, you're starting to see houses on TV, unfortunately, right? Where families are living with Black art, So, but a lot of people don't realize that African American art is the most highly collected art on the face of the earth. People want their hands on modern day Black artifacts. And I'm saying, Black people, this is where the gold bag is because you want not only your culture, but you want something that you can say, I am passing this down to someone after me that will continue the legacy. We're right now in a position where our culture is brittle right now. We're not engaging in one another. We would rather see something foreign than to see something close to us rise up. So I think, and that comes from the TV, that comes from the cell phones, it comes from the pads and iPads and Instagram and all of these things, So this is an opportunity. We can use these things to acknowledge ourselves, or we can fall deeper into the rabbit hole.
How does Black art influence the social justice and environmental movement?
Okay, so environmental movement, when we talk about Black art, we just not talking about the visual, but we talking about music, right? But Black art in particularly always speaks about it, right? If you look at when you go into our elders, they painted a lot with, landscapes and beautiful sceneries. And the landscapes for us were really important because we had to know the lay of the land. We were escaping many times from being in a very toxic circumstance of either being sharecropping or enslavement, right? Not slavery, but enslavement, which is a little different than slavery. So enslavement, for us here, this allowed us to live as human beings. Chattel slavery was where we had to behave as working tools, that we were tools and sometimes even lower than animals, because even tools, you respect your tools, right? And so there's a lot of social disorder in the midst of how we become. But as artists, you find artists like Charles White, or you find artists like Henry Osawa Tanner, Joshua Johnston, Augusta Savage, Sergeant Johnson, who was here in San Francisco, who was really the first Black artist to really make it to really come and really light things up, to keep it lit, if we were going to say it like that, right? Sergeant Johnson came to San Francisco and through the WPA program and began doing art, huge edifices. We have real artifacts here in San Francisco. If you go down by Pier 39 where the Natorium is, you will see a huge tile mosaic done by the great master artist Sergeant Johnson, who came here and did that. So, and he did things so much about Black people that the city was telling him, stop, you can't, we don't want that kind of story being told on the streets in San Francisco. And he was like, this is the truth. Nobody wants to talk about it. And it was police brutality, harassment, not allowing us to move forward. A lot of people don't know the story of William Leidesdorff. There's even a sculpture of William Leidesdorff on his street, downtown San Francisco, but he's encaged, right? There was a mural done of him, but he was actually a Black man. He was actually a mixed culture, but he was considered a Black man. And so, and he's still Black. He only was really connected to his mother. He never knew his father, who happened to be white, who happened to be Dutch. So, these kinds of things, knowing about the artists, right? Environment. When we're talking about artists, we're talking about our conditions and we're talking about the future we want to be in. And this is when we go all the way back to Sergeant Johnson, who talked about the environment then. You talk about Elizabeth Catlett, she's talking about the environment. We are the environment. So when you see a Black face on the canvas, consider that as a part of the environment, because we are as one of the most important parts of nature, because we speak to nature and nature speaks to us as long as we know who we are.
Can you tell us about your youth arts program?
Yes, absolutely. So this is the Woke Action Group. And I've been working with them on and off, utilizing the OFA program. And I did a couple of projects with the California Arts Endowment for the Arts, where they came in and did some things with us. And the idea is, or the California Arts Council, that's who it was. They did some projects with them on that, and we did some other projects, for the new Candlestick project that they've been working on for years that has yet to come forward. We did the mural. So when you see the Candlestick posters, those were done by youth and Alice Griffith Double Rock. I actually, they asked me to do the art, but I wanted the youth to be a part of it. So in this current condition, we're right now doing these quarterly exhibits. They're for every 4 months. And we do these exhibitions inside where we take the community center and turn it into a gallery where the community is able to come out and even purchase artwork from the youth. There's no artwork of mine in there. So if you come to look for my artwork, it's not going to be there. It's the kids' work. I want to stage them, but I am curating their work. So if you want to see how I curate, come see their work and please purchase their work. I really want to create a new reality on how we think about career as being a visual artist, which is a difficult thing to talk about in the Black family and in American families. It's a laughable subject to say I'm going to have a career as a visual artist. So, but we have a new day and a new time that's coming, and I'm glad to be ushering that through.
Now, how would you like Black art to be represented in the future?
Man, that's a big question. Big question right there. I would just like it to be where I think I'm doing that work right now. From meeting my wife and teaching her teaching her how to create art, and now she's doing her own thing. She has her own exhibition called The Black Woman is God. So there's more Black women artists growing all over the country and now all over the world because of this, I believe. Because before that, my dream as a kid growing up as an artist is I wanted to walk into a museum and see it full of Black women artists. and it goes back to that day when I saw my mom creating art and she was shied away from it. Like, no, that's your thing. I can't do art. It's too expensive. And today there are a lot of young Black women artists and, Black women artists who've been, like I said, I went back to Augusta Savage, to, Elizabeth Catlett, to Samela Lewis, and many, 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 many. I can keep going. Ruth Waddy, who was from San Francisco here, but they're not taught in the schools. So when I go to the school, of course, I'm going to bring the name, but we got to get their names in the books, get their names, because there's always going to be public school. And I think public school is important to America in the sense that not what they're doing today, but we need to change the format by which public school is being done, because they got to know the public while at the same time knowing their own culture. Now, we can't expect a government school to give us our culture. That's number one. Our communities are supposed to give us the culture. So if our communities give the culture, then the communities can have a heavy lean in on the school and cause the school to go to a more cultural stance than being involved in the new fashion of culture that we see today.
How can we support the work of Malik Seneferu?
Man, come by. I'm here at the beautiful. I'm here in the Hunters Point Shipyard. It's like lemon meringue pie. You should get a little bit, but don't eat too much of it, because we still dealing with our struggles here. But here at the Hunters Point Shipyard, I have a studio. You're here in my studio now, 2511. You can look me up online. If you can. I have magnets. I'm well known for my magnets because of the family, and the way that I came up. My family would have probably had a bunch of these, right? And these bags are like only $5, and it's another way to be able to say you can collect from me, and at the same time be able to say I got it from the artist himself. So this is one thing that I do to try to sort of give back. So I always say, if you buy 4, you get 1 free. So you're still getting something free from me in that sense. And it also creates that great line of reciprocity, where you give the stuff I need so I can get the materials, and I make more stuff, and you come and build your collection, get an insurance policy on your collection, and then you will have some assets that you can borrow against to get your life moving the way you would like to. So that's one thing I'm going to drop for you on that.
What are you currently working on?
I'm working on a series of things. Initially, I was working on a series of portraits in my sketchbook, but that sketchbook came up missing. If anybody sees it out there, it has my name in it, please bring it back. I really need it because it has elders that I've created in it, from Marielle Booker to Eloise Westbrook to, just all of the greats. And really, this is a gift I was given to the community. So you'll see my name on it. Anybody who has it, it actually belongs, but it really belongs to the community. And we're trying to move forward with this. So what I started doing is I said, okay, I'm still working on those portraits, some new portraits that I'm working on. But this one sketchbook kind of held me back. So I started working on this over here. This is the beginning of this is actually my first large works. Normally I would have works that's probably half this large. Of course, I have murals that I've done. I have murals all over the Bay Area. I just finished about 2 or 3 murals this year already. And I'm also working on some major projects in Sacramento, which I got to get my butt back up there because I've been doing so much down here that I haven't got a chance to get back up there to finish. So I will be finishing that and unveiling for you. You can find me online at Malik's Art. But in the meantime, this is one of those pieces that go back to my childhood. When I first started painting, when I was around 14 years old, actually, I started grabbing watercolors and paints because I got accepted into the School of the Arts. and I would always have something to bring home so I could be able to work. So I started creating these landscapes, and these were imaginary ideas of beautiful environments, and so because I wanted to travel and couldn't travel, I started painting places I wanted to be, like near waterfalls or in beautiful scenes like this here. This is a quite interesting thing. All of my artwork tends to be very clairvoyant. I started this piece probably about 3 weeks ago, and it got this way real fast. But this is the underpainting of what will be. Okay, so this is the underpainting. This is what I'm working on now, and what I've been doing is I've been taking a lot of my stones and colors, and normally I would always I have so many angles in which I can paint, and so a lot of people are used to me painting the tons of color, and because I paint with so much color, a lot of people are afraid to collect because, well, it's a little too, the color is too loud. Okay, so what I do is, with this here, I am actually painting in the underlay of the paint. So you're getting a chance to see what the underlay is looking like. This is the underpainting, and then you're going to see the color emerge from that. And of course, in this one, you will see a family rowing a canoe, a Black family, that is. So this is inspired by the outdoor fro. My sister, LaRue Map, put together a beautiful book called The Outdoor Afro. And she put together a beautiful book with all of these scenic tones. So I told her I was going to be starting a project. And this is that project beginning with that sort of on a stream. And so the idea is that the family is going to be here rowing, and there's going to be some brush here. There's going to be birds. It's going to be insects, butterflies, dragonflies, and stuff like that. You'll have some things happening here in the sky. So a lot of this, my paintings start straight from my imagination. I never have really a preliminary, because a lot of my voice is really about trying to engage a conversation with my ancestors, So, and engaging with that conversation with my ancestors, I'm letting them tell me where everything is supposed to be. You see? So you can see here how it all comes, and that color's coming in, and I'm slightly bringing it through. And this being a large canvas, it's going to be quite different as things kind of come up. So, and you kind of seeing this come forward, I will, of course, have an unveiling of this work. As you can see, many more works behind it that I'm going to be covering. And then I'm also working on a piece that I started here a while back. I went through a major move in my life, and so it put this piece on halt. But this is supposed to be Matul Shakur, and this is the underpainting. Like right here, if you see, this painting here is of Nina Simone. This painting here is of Fela Ransom Anikulapo Kuti, right? Here is Huey P. Newton, right? And here's the young, at this time, Aretha Franklin. So, these are the underlay, though. This is the understory. It's like the under part, like here's the under. There's always something hidden underneath it. The beginning of the year, this is the first painting I finished by the end of the beginning of the year. And this piece is actually our ancestors. And it's called This Great Light of Mine from the Hill and Beyond. This great light of mine. So it's kind of pulled all of this little light of mine, but this is this great light of mine in this search of home, this search of trying to find a place that we call our home where we can be safe and happy and live comfort, joy, and productivity. And so you have this rock quarry at the bottom of a lot of these paintings that I do. And so that's what you'll see a lot of as well as we continue pushing through on this. And here are more from the hill and beyond, the masks, stuff like that. This year I upstaged a painting for the first time. This painting was done in 2020, but I decided to put these Undinka symbols on them, so it makes it easy for folks who wanted to purchase a symbol. You can adopt one today. That's one way to become a collector. And you will actually get a authentication letter stating that you own an original from Malik Seneferu. And I would sign the back of the painting. The painting's already signed with all of the information. But of course, there will be here placed a authentication letter from me to you. So with that being said, there's a lot more to come from Malik's world. But I would love to invite you over. I would invite you and your family over. Look me up on social media. I'm not difficult to find. I'm always working in Bayview Hunters Point. But how it is in Bayview Hunters Point is if you work in one area, you can easily not be seen anywhere. So everyone asks me, where you been? No, I've been out here, I promise you. But it's just that the area I work in is so closed away from everywhere else in the world. So you can always catch me online, or like I said, if you're around in the Candlestick area, just say, where Brother Malik at? And they'll let you know where I am. So with that being said, as I said, even if it's bit, but just becoming a collector of my magnets. I also have these miniature pieces that I've created here, because a lot of us don't have big spaces. We have small spaces. So I'm always creating small works for those of us who are in those spaces where we can't even fit any artwork on the wall. There's another piece I created beginning of this year as well. And that's sort of that same environment, that sort of bushel environment there. And these are magnets that you can become collectors of if you can't find yourself being able to get original piece of artwork. It's a simple way. But I always say I do accept layaway. So with that, I say remain creative.
Today on Bay Area Supports, we are highlighting top-tier hair bundles, providing top-quality, double-weft virgin hair bundles to salon owners, hairstylists, store owners, and clients. You can reach them on Instagram at Top Tier Hair Bundles. DM to order. We are so glad to share this space with you here at the Black Bay Experience. Be sure to follow us on all major social media platforms. Like the videos and drop a comment. Thank you for tuning in. See you next week, right here, same time, same place on the Black Bay Experience.